Welcome to our course, Files and Search in Microsoft Teams. My name is Sarah, a training specialist here at Microsoft, and today we'll be exploring how to use Microsoft Teams to access centralized files that are key to your daily work. After today's session, you'll be able to use Microsoft Teams to collaborate with your colleagues on shared files, and you'll be able to find and manage files right from Teams. So let's get started. It's important to understand that Microsoft Teams files are stored in the cloud, and that leads to some key questions. So first of all, where are the Teams files actually stored? So files do not live in Microsoft Teams. Files live in SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, or other cloud storage portals, and Teams gives you easy access to the files that are stored in the cloud. Okay, so what is the cloud and why do we use it? Well, rather than storing everything on your local hard drive, content is stored online, and there are several advantages to using cloud storage. One of them is convenient access, anywhere, anytime access. You've got real-time collaboration, that could be co-authoring, file versioning, screen sharing. Hey, let me call you up and share my screen with you. You've got centralized file backup and management and security. And there are other advantages. Cloud storage is scalable, it's cost effective, it has analytic tools, it's easy to track documents, and more. Now, you may be seeking deeper understanding about file management and how files are stored within your organization. And we recommend that you reach out to your internal support to learn the specifics for your organization. For example, storage capacity, security best practices, retention policies, etc. But Microsoft is compliant with all regional security standards, and Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint, they're all part of Microsoft 365, which gives you enterprise-grade security and secure sharing outside of the organization. So reach out to your internal support to learn the specifics and best practices for your organization. Okay, so then where actually are the files in Microsoft Teams? Where do they go? Files that you share in a channel are stored to your Teams SharePoint folder. Now, Teams also supports third-party cloud storage providers like Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, etc. And you can reach out to your internal support to learn if any of these storage options are also available in your organization. The files in a channel can be managed by everyone in the team, and this is ideal for providing access to all team members, providing transparency, visibility to an ongoing project or process, or providing long-term access to all documents. Now, files that you share in a chat are stored in your OneDrive for Business folder. A chat-based file is shared with the people in that conversation. They can even edit the file, but you are the sole owner of that file that you've uploaded to the chat. And this would be ideal for collaborating on sidebar projects, projects that need a fast turnaround, drafts, for example. So now that we've covered these high-level examples, let's jump into Teams. And I've got my demo set up with Adele, my alter ego, so that we can explore some real-world examples. So the first thing is, how do we add and share files into the conversation? You can bring your files right into the conversation. One way to do that is you can drag and drop files right into that text box, the compose box. You can also use the paperclip icon to attach a file. Let's click on that. And I'm here at a team and channel, so I have lots of options available. I can bring a file in from my local system. Maybe you have a third-party cloud storage provider like Google Drive or Dropbox or Box, for example. Maybe you have files that you put into chat you were using in your OneDrive for business, and now you want to bring them into the conversation in Teams. It's more of a long-term group access. Or you might also have files that are stored right here in a team and channel. These would be SharePoint-based files. Let's go ahead and click on this. So when you bring a file in, you can click on the file and you'll notice that many times the option is to share a link. That means the file is not going to be moved or copied. You're simply creating a shortcut or a pointer to that single source location. Now I'm going to jump up here. You can use this bent arrow jump button here to jump to another folder or another channel in the team. Might notice the channels here. Or actually, let's click on this one more time. These are actually other teams inside of your world. I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to go to a different option. Sometimes when you select a file, you'll have a choice to share a link or to upload a copy. So if you upload a copy, then you're creating a brand new instance of that, a new version completely. Or if you share a link, you're simply creating a shortcut or a pointer back to the single source. So these are some ways that you can bring in these items right into your conversation. Let's check out the Files tab. So in your Teams and channels and also in your chat, you'll have a Files tab. This is another way that you can add files to the conversation. You can drag in files and even a bulk of files. You can bring those in. You'll have some upload options you'll see here or some share options. And Teams and channels actually has a little bit more muscle, a little bit more structure. That's by design. So you could even create a brand new file or create folder structure as needed as well. Now, something else I want to point out. Let's go to this PowerPoint presentation here. There's an option to copy links. So when you click on the ellipsis, the 3 dots, that's going to open up the more options menu or the more actions menu. And copy a link would be handy if you wanted to create a link into a different conversation. You want to go the opposite way. In fact, often I'll have files that live in a team and channel or that are associated with a team and channel, and I want to reference them in a chat conversation, maybe a sidebar conversation. Hey, what do you guys think about this file? How can we work on this, etc.? Here's where it lives. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this link. Copy. And jump over to the chat. And here's our conversation where we can paste in that link as needed. Now, when I paste the link, I just want to show you something, a best practice. When you paste a link in, let's go ahead and right click. It doesn't always look beautiful. This is a little crazy, right? So I'm going to undo or backspace. Here's a best practice. Expand this text box, the compose box here. And then you'll be able to access the insert link option. This is where you can create text-friendly links. So now I could put something, PowerPoint presentation, dun, dun, dun. And then down below, this is where you can put in your link. You can either use your keyboard shortcut or you can right-click to paste in the link. And you'll notice that it's a nice text-friendly version of that link that instead. Okay. Now, when you bring a file in, you'll also see the file as part of the conversation, whether it's a chat or a Teams and channel. And this makes it really easy to simply click on the file to open it up and to work on it. So we're actually just going to do this. We're going to click the file and see where it takes us by default. By default, it opens it up in Teams, which means it's the same window. You don't have to toggle lots of different apps. This would be handy if you want to do a quick review or you want to make some quick edits, some changes. The conversation is opened on the side. There's a button here that says conversation. So you can turn that on or off depending on how much real estate you want. So that's another way that you can continue working on this file, collaborate on this file. You can also set up comments for Office products like Excel, Word, PowerPoint. You can add these comments in and people will be able to see this as well. That's part of the file. Teams supports real-time collaboration. So files, Office files like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, OneNote, those support co-authoring. That means that if Adele and her colleagues, Alex and Pradeep, for example, they're all online at the same time, they could work on this file together at the same time. Or they could take turns. They could hand off as needed. That's what we call persistent chat history. So you can work on it together or you can take turns. You can even go a little bit deeper. You can open in the desktop app if you wanted to have a little bit more muscle when you're working on these files and editing. Now to close the view, top right-hand corner, just click close. And that's going to close this view. It'll take you back where you were, in this case, back to our chat conversation. A couple more ways that you can extend the conversation. Let's say that you're working on this file and you really want to open it up where you want to hear comments and you want to maybe share your screen, have a little bit more real-time collaboration. You can always start a call. That could be an audio or video call. You could do screen sharing, and now you can collaborate. And you could also set up a meeting, right? So another way that you could extend the collaboration process, right, from Teams. And then I want to point out a quick trick here. I'm going to click on the plus sign. You can create a tab that is for these files. So this is another way that you can add a shortcut to files that you're working on, maybe a lot right now or on a regular basis, you're referencing this file. So for example, if I choose Excel, and this allows us to create a tab, and you can scroll to any of these Excel files. I think I'll choose Marketing Planner. And then I can give it a name. I'll call this Planner. Actually, I'll call it Excel Planner so I remember what it is. And then, of course, you can also, if you wanted to, create a post down in the conversation so people will know that you've just added this tab. So that's an option that you can do. All right, so hey, we just created this tab called Excel Planner. The tab itself is now easily accessible with everybody in that conversation. You can rearrange the tab. You can drag and drop it. You can change the name. You can also remove the tab. So if you're no longer working on this file, you can remove it. There we go. And let me go back into our chat conversation. I already just removed the tab, so I think what I'll do is I'll delete the comment as well. But you get the idea of how easy that is to get people's eyeballs on particular files for collaboration. All right, so let's jump back into Teams and channels here. When you're working on a file, we saw that we could open it and we just click the file, it opens it up in Teams. You're also going to have the option to open it in the desktop app. So that'll give you more muscle. And then sometimes we'll even have options, depending on the file type, to open it up in a web app, open it up in the browser, which will also often have editing options or viewing options as well. Then there will be options to download a file. So that would create a local copy completely separate from the original. So you have a local version of that. Or if you are in a team and channel, there's a sync feature. So a sync option allows you to have the folder or the channel offline, and you can work on it offline. And then when you connect back to your network, it's going to sync up the files with the source files where they actually truly live in the cloud. So that's another way to expand the collaboration process here. Now, let's take another look at these files that we have here. So we'll see that when we're in Teams and channels, we actually have quite a few options for editing files. And again, Teams and channels is by design, has more muscle than chats. Chats are designed to be more simple and lightweight. Teams and channels are designed to be more muscle and structure. So one of the things that we can do is we can actually make this a tab. So this is another shortcut way to add a tab. And I also want to point out the pin to top. This is really handy if you've got a lot of files. There's a whole bunch, and there are some important relevant files. Rather than having to scroll through all of them, you can simply pin that file to the top. And when you select a file, wow, it's easy to access it just like you had before. I'm going to go and close that out. Go back to our regular view. It's pinned here at the top, easy access to find. Now you can either right click or you can select the item and you'll have the option to edit the pin. Or if you right click, you'll have an option to edit the pin and unpin. So keep that in mind too. You can always customize this. Something else that we noticed when you are working on a file, you click on the ellipsis or the more actions. You can delete files, you can rename files, you can move and copy files right from Teams. So you can do a lot of the file management right here in Teams. For example, I might have some files that I want to move into a legacy folder. They're a little bit older. I don't want to delete them, but I want to move them into another folder. So those are some options that you have. You can also access the SharePoint. That's the behind the scenes. So when a team is created, it's actually a SharePoint site collection that's on the back end supporting the architecture of this team. And every single channel is a folder in that SharePoint document library. So let's take a closer look in SharePoint. So right now we're in the folder called Team Sync. It's part of that document library. If we follow this breadcrumb, we go back, we'll see that in the document library, we have multiple folders. These represent the channels that we've created for that team. And then on the left-hand quick access, we have our documents, site contents that shows us everything. We might have some other items of interest. And then quick shout out to the recycle bin. If you did happen to delete a file, this is where you could go to restore a file that you happen to delete. It'll go right back to the place where it originally came, right? All right, we're going to jump back to documents. And we will sync here. And again, if you select a file, click the ellipsis or the more actions, you're going to see options for managing. There's a few more items of interest. I'll just point out a couple of them. One is the share feature. So if you wanted to manage some of the sharing attributes, for example, maybe you want to share this file with somebody outside of the team, but you still want them to have access to this specific file. Another option I want to point out is the version history. So if a file has a lot of version history, that's automatically turned on when a file is stored in SharePoint or OneDrive for Business. And you can access that version history. Not much for this particular file, but it would allow me to go back in time and find those original versions if I needed to. And again, there's more to explore here, but we're actually just going to pop out of this and go right back to Teams and Channels, which is our focus. There are also possibly options for cloud storage. So Teams does support third-party cloud portal or cloud storage portals. For example, our IT admin set up a Google Drive account. You might see ShareFile, Ignite, Dropbox. So Adele, she can simply click Google Drive and connect to her Google Drive home folder, which she did here, and she just added that into. So now she has easy access to that information. If that's a file she's sharing with other people in her team, they can also access that too. And then SharePoint itself is a really robust element, right? Better together. So let me show you a really great app. It's called the Document Library app. And this allows you to create a shortcut or a tab that gives you access to all your files. In fact, let's show you an example. Go to Communications tab. We set one up here called Marketing Docs. So click on Marketing Docs. These are a list of documents that live in a different team and channel right here, marketing. And we have easy access to those files right at our fingertips. So that plus sign, when you go to Document Library here, it lets you pick a site or a team that is already part of your Teams and Channels world, or you might have an existing portal that was created before your Teams and Channel, or it's separate from Teams and Channels, and you want to set up a link for that portal. You can put that in right into chat. And again, you have the option if you wanted to post a announcement about that as well. Now with your options here in OneDrive for Business, keep in mind it's going to be a little bit different. You're not going to be managing files that are placed in chat. That's not what the design or intent is. You can manage the files though that you own. because you're a single owner in OneDrive for Business, and you can do that through your OneDrive for Business portal. So let's click on Files. Over on the left-hand side, this purple bar, this left rail, this shows us a list of all the files that we're referencing inside of our Teams and Channels world. So we have our recent files. Microsoft Teams would be your Teams and Channels files, your SharePoint-based files. Recent could actually be both chat and channels. You might even see a link to downloads if you are working in a desktop mode. We have our OneDrive files. These would be files that we have uploaded to chat. And again, if you're using any third-party storage providers. Now in OneDrive, you're going to see all these files that you've uploaded, but there's also a nice shortcut that takes you to open in OneDrive. So it's just another way to get to your Microsoft 365 portal. And I'm going to jump to chat files. That's where all of our files really live. And again, with any of these files, you can click the ellipsis or the more options menu, and you'll see options in here. And here's where you could go in and manage. Maybe you want to manage the sharing permissions. Maybe you want to extend sharing to somebody or remove some options like that. You can also access your version history. This is, again, where you could delete or rename your files. So you can do some management on this side. Keep in mind that if you delete a file, you're not necessarily deleting the shortcut that lives in Teams, but the shortcut that's in Teams will no longer be active. It'll be deactivated because you deleted it from the source. So those are some ways that you can manage this at a top level. One question we often get, though, is, well, what happens if there's only one owner? What happens if that person leaves the organization? And that's a really good question. The good news is that your IT admin can use policies to manage that transition. And you might want to reach out to find out where the specific policies are. But for example, let's say that Adele leaves the organization and then her manager, Patty, is be given temporary ownership access during that transition process. Or her colleague, Alex, is given temporary permission ownership access of those files during that transition process. So your IT admin can manage this as all part of Microsoft 365. All right, we're going to close our OneDrive. We're going to make our way back to our Teams and Channels. The files is a great way to, at a glance, see your information, especially your most recent files. A lot of times that's what you're looking for. But you can also use the search feature to find information and especially your files. So I'm going to start with this search for forecast because one of the things that we were looking for was our forecast trends. And you're seeing at a glance some items that may be relevant. Let's just go ahead and press enter. And now we're seeing all kinds of things that are related to forecast. And some of these look like links, right? You can also put in 2 words like forecast trends. This is going to search for forecast and trends. It's going to search for either or word. If you want to make this a specific, option, specifically the phrase forecast trends, let's put that into quotes. And that's going to change the results that we have here. And we could even change the results to narrow it down, just search chat or channel. If you click on the tab called Files, it's only searching your Teams and Channels. Just a little FYI, this is a very exclusive filter, but this would also help you narrow down that even more. So if you had a lot of items in your Teams and Channels, you could narrow this down for different filters. Okay, now I want to show you another great trick here. When you use the search feature, you can type a / for a list of commands. And one of the options is the files command. So this is really just a shortcut to your files. It's your recent files. And it's going to show you files that were in a team and channel, like Team Sync, or in a chat in here as well. And then you can even narrow this down. So if I put in the word, for example, forecast, I got to type it correctly, but this is going to show me files that beat that criteria as well. All right, let's go ahead and reset this search. I'm just going to click on chat. I want to give you one other best practice or great feature working with chats. and that's the find command. So right now I'm in a conversation and I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control F for find. And that opens up the find command and it automatically associates it with the chat that I have available. And then if I typed in the word forecast and press enter, what we're getting are results specifically for this conversation. That's the big idea. And we'll just, for fun, we'll go back to our teams and channels and we'll use our Control F. I don't know if there's any in this communications channel. Let's just find out. We'll type in forecast and we'll say, oh, it's not as many, but that's a nice way to narrow that search. And again, to reset the search results, just click on the icon, the Teams icon or the chat icon to narrow that search or reset it back to your default view. All right, so as we are finishing up, I just want to say that the best way to learn Teams is to jump in there and start using it. So I'd love to give you a few go-do activities that you can use to continue learning about Teams. So first, upload a file to a conversation and ask your colleagues for some feedback. Open up some files. You could open them up in Teams, use the desktop app, you can open them up in SharePoint, and then also try using your search tool to access a recent file. So thank you for viewing our training. Have a wonderful day.